Well, good day. Welcome to Laird Wellness Live. Scott Laird.
Jody Laird.
And how about them obelisks? Have you been watching the news?
And giant pieces of granite.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so today, let's back it up here. Okay, so yesterday, the Georgia Guidestones in Georgia, there was an explosion. At first, people thought it was an earthquake, but it wasn't an earthquake. It's an explosion. Something happened. And then quickly, a bulldozer came in and demolished the rest of them. So it's like, wait, what?
In the name of safety.
What happened here? Okay, so that was the first weird thing. Then today, so that was yesterday. Then today, lightning struck an obelisk at the Vatican.
Yes.
And basically shattered a whole piece of it. And it's all fallen to the ground. Not the whole thing, but just, a piece of it has fallen to the ground. So that was weird. An obelisk that's been there since, I don't know, what did they say? It was to commemorate somebody from the 1500s, but I'm not sure when the obelisk was erected. But anyway, no pun intended. And then the third thing was, I saw something from Mike Adams just before we went on that made me just laugh. Oh my gosh, it was funny. So because Russia has cut off the EU to all of their natural gas,
right?
They've had to quickly come up with other solutions. So they have determined that fossil fuels are green energy. I love it. So, yeah, how does it feel to be pressured, huh? Yeah, so that was pretty funny. So it's been an entertaining week, to say the least. That was pretty good.
One thing after another after another.
Not to mention the markets, if you're looking at those. Oh, my gosh. Anyway. So sit back, enjoy the ride, and have some popcorn. Speaking of popcorn, we're going to talk about inflammatory foods tonight. So microwave popcorn is one of the worst. You'll see why in a minute. Ooh. Anyway, so we're going to go through 10 of the top inflammatory foods and give you some alternatives. We're not going to leave you hanging. We're going to give you alternatives to all of these. So... what?
Oh, my knee just went out, but it's good now.
Oh, okay. Are you good now?
Yeah.
Okay. Jody's got to watch her knee. She's had ACL surgery in the past, and every once in a while, whoop, it goes out.
Yep.
So we have to watch that. So we're going to give you alternatives to the unhealthy foods to give you healthy foods, and we're going to give you the top 10. And now, full disclosure, this is from my friend Dr. Jockers, Dr. David Jockers. You can find this on his website, but we decided we'd give you the live, entertaining version, and we're going to take a lot of his images and a lot of the information that he has provided. So this is not from us. This is courtesy of Dr. David Jockers at drjockers.com. Wonderful
awesome.
guy. Love him.
Yes.
Good friend of mine. Okay, so we are going to start with... we're going to start with, the body. So what chronic inflammation does to the body. So chronic inflammation is different than regular inflammation. So regular inflammation is not such a bad thing. So you bump your knee, like I got a Band-Aid here, so from burning myself on the oven.
Yes.
So that got inflamed, obviously. So that kind of inflammation is good. That indicates repair in the body. Fever is kind of a inflammation to some degree. It's a normal reaction. It's a normal reaction, right.
Yeah.
But when we have chronic inflammation, mostly due to the foods we eat and the lifestyles we live, if we're not moving around a lot and we're eating all the kind of bad kind of foods, we're going to have this chronic inflammation. It's just going to get in the way of everything, and it leads to pain and this and that and the other thing.
And disease.
And disease, yeah. So physical, emotional, chemical stress can all lead to chronic inflammation. And tonight we're going to focus on foods, and there are 10 of the top 10 inflammatory foods. So we've got a lot to cover tonight. So hang with us. So how does inflammation affect the body? Chronic inflammation. It affects all types, all parts of the body. So inflammation, you'll read there at the top, is at the root of practically all known chronic health conditions. That's how it happens. Inflammation happens first. That causes cells to kind of go awry and not operate as they are supposed to, and that leads to disease. And a malfunctioning cell is what leads to disease, and inflammation is how we get there. So in the brain, we have all kinds of things going on in the brain. I'm not going to read through all these, but you can see that every part of the body is affected. The brain, the cardiovascular system, all your muscles, bones, skin, thyroid, lungs, GI tract, kidneys, liver. I mean, inflammation can make a mess. And so let us start with the top 10 foods that cause inflammation. So here they are, right here.
Woo!
We're going to go through each one of these.
This is new to me. This is the first time I'm seeing it. So.
Oh yeah. So these, you know what? If you're
we
smart,
we live this. We avoid all these.
Yeah.
But still,
every once in a while, you think, once in a while it's okay, I guess, but try and avoid these if you can. So number 1, gluten, then sugar, refined carbohydrates, which often include sugar, conventionally raised meat and dairy, farm-raised fish and seafood. We're going to find out why that is such a bad idea. Processed conventional meats, that is a bad thing. I'm going to say processed meats in general. I don't care if they're conventionally raised or organic. I'm going to tell you something about processed meats in general. Trans fats, which are partially hydrogenated oils. We'll explain that tonight. Food additives and preservatives, highly processed vegetable and seed oils, and finally, artificial sweeteners. And we are not, by the way, talking about stevia, monk fruit, and erythritol. Those are good. Those do not elevate your blood sugar. Those are the good ones. Just real quick, the ones you want to avoid: sucralose, aspartame for the most part, and there's a couple of others. But avoid those. And how do you avoid those? Read the label. Yes. Read the dang label. That's all you have to do in most cases. Instead of looking at the front going, oh, gee, that looks good, you turn it around. Read the ingredients. The first video, when we do our Biologic Blueprint program when we have 6 weeks and 12 weeks with people, by the way, we are completely revamping this program. Watch very soon. It is a lot more efficient for you. It costs a lot less, and you'll still get the same results. There you go. So that is coming very soon. The Biologic Blueprint program. If you thought you couldn't afford it before, now you can. And we're actually going to implement a payment system on our website that is brand new. So look for that in the coming, hopefully next few days. So anyway, when we do that program, the first video we give people is one called Read the Label.
Yeah, how to read a food label.
How to read a food label. And we show you exactly what to look for, what's the good symbols, what are the kind of the made up symbols, like, oh, good, it's all natural. What does all natural mean? Heck, plutonium's all natural. Come on. So we teach you how to look for these things critically and which foods to choose. So anyway, read the label. That's how you avoid the artificial sweeteners. Right. All right, so we're going to get into the first one now. Gluten. Gluten is our first food to avoid. So why do we want to avoid gluten? Well, gluten is a protein, as you may know, found in grains. Gluten sensitivity may cause a low-level chronic inflammation, and it can cause a variety of symptoms and leaky gut, and everybody knows about leaky gut. So that's why you want to avoid gluten. Now, gluten is, like we said, a protein, and the inflammatory response, or the cytokine response, by the way, cytokines, remember we talked about cytokines a lot with COVID? That's kind of what overtook people if they went to the hospital and they didn't look after their infection of COVID. The cytokine storm, remember that term?
Yeah.
That would take over. So that's what this is. It's an inflammation the body can no longer contain or control, and then you're in very big trouble. So chronic inflammation, you'd think you want to stop that before it starts. It's like a little bit of poison. You want to get rid of that altogether. So chronic inflammation comes from proteins that escape the gut. Leaky gut syndrome, that's literally what happens. So here's what your gut should look like. And then when we eat bad foods and when, things that aren't very good for us, well, the gut starts to do this. It starts to pull apart microscopically. This is a macroscopic view of it, but we get these little holes all over your gut. And through those microscopic holes, undigested proteins, they escape the gut and they get into your bloodstream. Well, what happens when the body sees a foreign substance, i.e. a protein, in the blood? It attacks it. Yep. Then we have autoimmune conditions, and we have allergic responses. Yep. In the case of someone with a peanut allergy, i.e. our daughter, yep. If she has peanuts, that the body attacks it as if it's a foreign invader to the point where she has an anaphylactic attack. That's really bad.
Or there's food sensitivities where it's delayed reaction, which could come in the form of a headache, but it doesn't stop there. It's a snowball effect. So if you keep eating foods that you are sensitive to, you're eventually going to end up with disease or an autoimmune condition or something like that. And shameless plug, we do food sensitivity testing.
Yes, we do.
So $275.
Oh, is that all it is?
That one of them is, and it tests 184 foods, including gluten and wheat.
Wow!
So we did that for our daughter. Found out she was sensitive to gluten and wheat, amongst some other things like some different cheeses.
That's when you think about that. How many allergens?
184.
And it costs $275.
That's
really, like a little more than a buck an allergy.
Yeah,
that's pretty good.
It's really good. So yeah.
Gosh. Okay. Wow. All right.
Just throwing that in there.
So if you want to do that, yes. How do you get a hold of you to do that, Jody? What's the best way?
Well, you can just email us.
Info at Laird Wellness,
Yeah,
and we can connect you.
Info at Laird Wellness.
Info at LairdWellness.com. There you go, and then we'll connect you with Jody, and she can do that because it's not on our website. Jody has to do that through Health Revival Partners, the people who do our blood tests, i.e., Dr. Lewis.
Yeah.
So, what are some alternatives to gluten? Well, that's pretty obvious. You've got your gluten-free flours. We make stuff all the time with almond flour. We do not have regular flour in this house. We just don't. We have almond flour. We crack it open. We put it in the freezer to keep it fresh.
Yep. And in fact, that's what I made for supper tonight. I had tuna. It was not farm raised. It was wild caught. But I had that out of a can with some mayonnaise, and I made a waffle with almond flour and an egg, and I put it in the waffle maker.
It's kind of like if you make that with cheese, they call that a chaffle.
A chaffle, but I didn't put cheese in. I'm trying to not do so much dairy. So yeah, I had tuna with tomatoes from the garden.
Oh, nice.
On a waffle made out of almond flour and egg tonight.
Now, if you're using alternative flours, a little hint here, coconut flour, for whatever reason, really dries stuff out. I don't know why. I don't know why anybody uses that stuff or what they use it for. Yeah, I don't use it either. So, yeah, you could use coconut flour, almond flour, quinoa, amaranth, all that kind of good stuff. Or if you're at a restaurant and you're ordering a burger, most restaurants, we've talked about this before, the chefs, they love doing things that are off the menu because it's fun for them, right? Yeah. They get a little bored doing all the menu stuff all the time. So if you ask for a burger with a lettuce wrap instead of a bun, they'll go, oh yeah, okay, that's fun, I'll do that. So usually they'll really put some effort into it. We've been really surprised. Some restaurants are like, oh gosh, you really did a good job at that. They consider it a bit of a challenge, a little bit of fun. So don't be afraid to order something off the menu that does not include gluten, like a lettuce wrap for your bun, or you can do a cauliflower crust for your pizza.
Or just put your burger on your salad.
Yeah.
That's what I do.
Some restaurants are doing things like zoodles, like cucumber noodles, like what's that one place? The noodle place, Noodles and Company.
Yeah.
They will do zoodles, which are zucchini noodles. So they just put zucchini through the spiral cutter type of thing, and it makes noodles.
Yep.
And when you put the sauce on, you really don't miss the noodle part. What you're after is the sauce and the spices and the cream and the fat and all that kind of stuff. That's all what your body wants. That's what your taste buds want. They don't care about the noodles. So really, when you switch these things out, it sounds kind of weird, but it's not, because those things don't matter. It's all the spices and everything else around it.
And I'll tell you what, you'll feel a lot better after you eat, because you won't have that awful pain, bloating in your stomach.
Yeah.
If you're and I don't know too many people, I'm telling you, who do not have that bloating in their stomach after they eat out at a restaurant and have wheat and that kind of thing. And I always walk out of the restaurant and I'm never ever in pain, and I always think, it's because I didn't have any gluten.
How about that? Yep.
I think most of us are sensitive to gluten, and in the long run, it's not going to do us any
well,
good.
And it's not even, if you've been watching Shabbat Night Live recently, we have someone on there named Sue Becker.
Right.
And she has a challenge that I'm willing to take. I bought some wheat berries on her advice. And she says that problem is not due to the wheat. Don't villainize the wheat. It's the way we're making foods today. And we won't get into it tonight, but that's what she says. Because we're, grinding the flour, putting it in a bag, putting it on a shelf, and then one day we use it. That whole time lapse causes all the problems.
Right.
If we were to just grind the grain and immediately bake what we just ground, no problems. So I'm willing to try that, because we see bread all over the Bible. There's got to be something to this.
Yeah.
So anyway,
I do.
We'll cover that some other time. So sugar is our next item. So sugar, why is sugar so bad? Well, when you eat too much sugar, your body can't process it quick enough. That's the problem. So as a result, it releases pro-inflammatory messengers, and those are called, like we said before, cytokines. And this may damage your immune system and lead to blood sugar issues. So we do not want that at all. That's what we don't want. So the alternatives to that are, of course, things with, you don't have to do, we're not going to talk about stevia and monk fruit just yet. We're going to talk about that when we get to artificial sweeteners. Let's get to, if you want something sweet, not necessarily a bag of candy, what can you have? Well, speaking of fruits, what are the better fruits? Well, green apples. You could do green apples. You could do any kind of berry. So blueberries, strawberries, raspberries, which are in season right now.
Blackberries.
Oh, blackberries. Yeah. So you could do all of those. Those are good because they have enough fiber to offset the sweetness. And that's the key. Something with fiber. Fiber regulates the release of the sugar in your bloodstream. So that's what you want. You want to have enough fiber to offset the sugar. And that's why when we teach our program, we teach you how to calculate net carbs, because what you do is you take the carbohydrates, you subtract the grams of fiber in any given thing. So if you've got like 20 grams of carbohydrates and 10 grams of fiber, you really only have 10 net carbs, because because the fiber will negate the carbs, which turns into sugar, to burn as sugar. So anyway, we can get into that.
And that's why we say, don't juice your fruit. Eat your fruit.
Right. Eat your fruit, juice your vegetables, if you really want to juice something.
Yeah.
So last night I was speaking to someone who had been a vegan for a long time, and we discovered that the sugar was kind of high. And they're kind of a little bit surprised by that.
I wish we would have done our blood work when we were vegan.
Yeah, you know what? It probably would have been quite high. We were probably
I would have probably been very high.
Like borderline, probably pre-diabetic.
Yeah, I bet for sure.
Yep, because all this, whether it's vegan or keto or paleo, we shouldn't have to do these things, but today we've got all this messed up food world. We're trying to navigate by creating ways around it. And yeah, you have to do that sometimes. Sometimes it's better to go paleo these days. Sometimes it's better to go, keto or maybe even vegan for a time if you've got certain gut issues, just because of how messed up our world is. And the reasons, a lot of the reason for that is why we're talking about tonight. So let's talk about refined carbohydrates. So, wait a minute. First of all, the impact of sugar on the body. We did not talk about this. Let's talk about this first. So what will it do? What will too much sugar do? Why is it so bad? So it can lead to weight gain. Well, that's pretty obvious. You eat too much sugar, you lead to weight gain. It'll affect your brain health, because there's a measure on one of our blood tests, all of our blood tests, called AIP. And that is kind of the ratio between sugar and fat in your body. And you want to have that more leaning on the fat side. So why? Because the brain loves fat. And there you go right there. If you eat too much sugar, it will affect your brain. So what's the alternative to that? More fats. More fats, less carbs. It will give you sleepless nights if you eat too much sugar. It will contribute to poor oral health, not just tooth decay, but all kinds of things. It will harm your heart. That's not good. It will cause liver problems. Causes anxiety and depression. Boy, that's a good one. Yeah, because it's an excitotoxin, and an excitotoxin is something that goes into your brain and just wreaks havoc. So there again, it's connected to the brain issue. It will raise your risk for type 2 diabetes. It will aggravate pain in your body. Well, yeah, we always tell people, number one, if you have pain, get rid of the sugar. Sugar equals pain, period. Why? Because sugar causes inflammation. Hold on, let me just tell you this for a minute. Okay, so sugar increases inflammation. It's one of the worst offenders when it comes to inflammation. So if it increases inflammation, what does inflammation do? It blows things up like a balloon, right? So if you blow something up like a balloon and you put pressure on the nerves, what's that going to do? Cause pain. So you want to release that by taking the pressure off the nerves. The way you do that is reduce inflammatory foods. Number one, in my opinion, it doesn't really start with gluten. I think the most inflammatory one on this list is sugar. And so take the sugar out. So that's just a little addition.
And
there.
sugar is in everything these days.
Yeah, you really got to watch it. So it'll weaken your immune system. Yes, there was some stat we had when I worked at Hallelujah Diet about sugar and the immune system. It's something like just 5 tablespoons or something is the equivalent of 1 Coca-Cola could basically knock out 90% of your immune system for the greater part of 12 hours.
Yeah, I remember that.
Really, really dangerous. And it'll also also increase cancer risk and cause chronic inflammation. Inflammation, I guess that's the start of it. So cancer, think about this. So when you do a PET scan, a PET scan. So what they'll do is they'll give you this dye to drink, and then they'll give you the scan, and then they can tell where the cancer is. Why? What's in that dye? Sugar. Cancer loves sugar. Sugar goes right to the cancer. Then they can see it on the screen. Oh, look, there's the cancer. You think the doctor would say, hey, wait a minute. If cancer likes sugar, maybe we should tell people to stop eating sugar. Duh. That's why both vegan diets, I've seen reverse stage 4 cancer, and even people who do keto diets. Yeah. Same thing. Because why? You're taking out the sugar one way or the other. Vegan, you don't do any meat products, and with keto, you're not doing any of the sugar products. You're sticking with mostly fat and not really concentrating on protein, but you're concentrating on fats. So There you go.
I mean,
two different ways of accomplishing the same
healthy
thing.
vegan diet, because if you're you're eating is grains the whole time.
Well, yeah, it's the same thing with dirty keto. It's the same thing, right?
True.
You're dirty vegan, dirty keto. Same kind of idea.
So we've seen diabetes and cancer reversed with all raw diet as well, which really you don't eat a lot of meat with that, but you're eating a whole lot of veggies.
Yep, absolutely. And that's the way to do it. That's clean vegan, and clean keto is good fats like avocados and coconut oil and grass-fed butter and grass-fed meats, and be very, very careful.
And no sugar.
Yeah, not eating conventional cream cheese and pork rinds. That's keto too, but that's dirty keto.
Right.
So, it all depends on how you do things. All right, so the next one is refined carbs. And, sugar falls into this too, because all refined carbs turn into sugar. And what are we talking about here? Well, it's kind of obvious. White bread, bagels, crackers, pasta, flour, tortillas, breakfast cereal, all that type of thing. So what are the alternatives then to refined carbs? Well, here we go right here. Here is a nice graphic we have from our friend Dr. Jocker. So here are some alternatives. So alternative to potato chips are, on the left there, sweet potato or cassava chips. Cassava chips, one of the most popular brands. We have one in our cabin. in our pantry most times, and that is Siete.
Yes.
Siete chips, made by a family that I think they had some diabetic issues in their family, and they needed to come up with an alternative, and lo and behold, they created an industry, and they make their own tortilla chips now. So it's called Siete. That's the brand. And you can find them at pretty much any, like Kroger or Publix, Costco, all that type of stuff. You can also do coconut, olive, or avocado oil. Cassava chips are usually cooked in those. And kale or beet chips, if you're looking to be a little adventurous, you can do those. Pasta.
I love kale chips. They're my fave.
Yeah, we haven't made kale chips in a long time. Used to make killer kale chips.
Yes.
In a dehydrator. You'll have to maybe do a recipe sometime, or maybe we'll do a show doing a recipe one time. Anyhow, so pasta, we talked about that already. You could do these zucchini noodles, or zoodles as they call them, zucchini pasta, or shirataki noodles. Those are what they call zero, what do they call them?
Oh, yeah. They're either zero noodles or miracle noodles.
Miracle noodles, zero something. Anyway.
Find them anywhere, Walmart, whatever.
You can find them where the tofu is in Walmart. It's in the produce section, in the cooler section. The tofu and all the meat replacement type of stuff, it's there. And it's in a bag. It's just in a bag like the size of a small 1 pound bag of rice. It looks about the same thing. And it's a bunch of liquid with these noodles inside. And basically just drain the liquid and eat the noodles. You can just eat them straight. Palmini pasta. That's made with heart of palm.
Yeah.
So that's
We've
really
tried
good
that.
too.
That's pretty good.
We found that at Aldi one time. All right, so rice, you can do, instead of rice, you can do cauliflower rice. What is cauliflower rice? It's basically cauliflower chopped up into the consistency of rice pieces. Mashed potatoes. Instead of those, you can do mashed sweet potatoes. Ironically, that's better than a white potato, even though it says sweet potato. You can do cauliflower mashed potatoes as well, which is not really potatoes, it's cauliflowers, mashed cauliflower.
Right.
We've ordered that at restaurants. Some high-end restaurants do a really good job of that. Bread. What can you do instead of bread? Well, coconut flour bread, almond butter bread, cauliflower bread.
I wonder what almond butter bread is. That sounds pretty good.
That does sound pretty good. And you know what? Maybe we could add freshly ground wheat to that one day once we try it ourselves and prove it. I'm not sold yet, but the person who told me all the information, Sue Becker, has a company called The Bread Beckers, breadbeckers.com. And she is a nutritional scientist. So I think she kind of knows what she's talking about. And she's been at this for many, many decades. So I think she knows the thing or two. So I'm willing to bet that probably she's right. And just not enough people have actually tried it to overcome the narrative.
Here's the thing, though. I get it. It's not going to hurt my stomach. It's not going to hurt me long term. But I'm going to want to eat the whole loaf. That does not change, right? The temptation is not going to change. However, you know what? When she made some and brought it to the studios, next week on Shabbat Night Live, is the final episode of this series that we're doing with her. Tonight is episode 3, or tomorrow rather, is episode 3, and next Friday is episode 4. And in episode 4, we do make some bread. We grind the flour right there and we bake it. And she brought some samples that she had done the night before. Mm-hmm. And she brought them to us. And you have a piece of that with some grass-fed butter on it, which is exactly what we did. You know what? One piece was enough.
It was like eating a banana. And when you eat one banana, you're like, whew, okay, that's enough. And I'm serious. It was because it's so dense
Rich.
and it's so rich, but it's so nutritious because you just ground the flour and there's no, you can watch the episodes on the show and find out. But yeah, it's just really different. So where are we here? Yes, so the better carbs. We went through the better carbs. Now we're getting into meats. So there are some good meats, there are some bad meats. So bad meats, why are meats bad? Well, a lot of meats are treated with hormones. We know that, antibiotics. And they eat corn made with GMOs. So that's what why, now first of all, you got to think about this. Why is a cow eating grain? Cows don't eat grain unless they're let out into a field where there was, a little bit of grain left over from a harvest or something.
Mostly eating the grass.
And they're mostly eating the straw and the grass and that kind of thing, the hay left over. So this doesn't make any sense to just put an entire trough of grain, unless you're trying to make that cow nice and fat so he weighs more so you can sell him for more. So that's why you would do that. So that's why there's grain-fed animals. So we want to do grass-fed, grass-finished. Now, why is there that term, grass-fed, grass-finished? And it's a singular term. So that says that the animal is grass-fed, but there is a stipulation that at the end of, when you're nearing the harvest time for that cow, when you're about to give him to the slaughterhouse, you can, for a short time, allow him to eat grain to fatten him up a little bit, and then send him to the slaughterhouse. So some people will do that, and you can still call it grass-fed. So you want grass-fed, grass-finished. Grass-finished means that cow was never given a trough of grain.
Right.
So that's why you got to be careful.
Yep.
It's like looking for extra virgin olive oil and that kind of thing. You got to be careful what you buy. So what's an alternative to regular conventional meats? Well, you
Bugs?
want pasture. No, what?
Bugs?
Bugs? Yeah, bugs. What?
Bugs are all the rage right now. Every celebrity's eating bugs because it's coming.
Well, David Wolf did that chocolate-covered ants years ago.
Yeah, but not good. This is not a good thing. This is like
abomination bugs.
Like Nicole Kidman on the stage, it's circulating right now. Her eating bugs, so that everything looks good for the future, because we will eat the bugs.
Oh, good. Yeah. So eat the cockroaches because they'll survive the nuclear blast. Yeah. So if they survive a nuclear blast, how are you going to cook them? First of all, how are you going to catch them? No, never mind. Anyhow, so what are the alternatives? So you want to look for pasture-raised poultry. Even there, you have to be careful because, pasture-raised, or what do they call that? Cage-free, can mean that they put a little bit of a fence outside the door, like for 10 feet. And if the chickens happen to find the door and wander out there, they can call it cage-free.
True.
Yeah.
But it's a giant facility with a little fence
door
outside
and
the door.
where do we see that?
I don't know.
That was the guy who did Super Size Me.
Yes.
Remember him?
Morgan something or other.
Yeah, Morgan Spurlock. Morgan Spurlock. His sequel to Super Size Me was this. I forget what the name of it was.
It was about chicken.
It was about the chicken industry. He purposefully opened a mom and pop chicken restaurant so that he could dive into the chicken industry and figure out all the dirty secrets and basically document it.
Not good.
So it's interesting to watch though, and that was one of the things we learned watching that show. It was really kind of fascinating.
Yeah.
So look up Morgan Spurlock chicken in Google. I'm sure you'll find it. So you want wild caught fish, and we're going to get into that a little bit later why you want that. But and the grass fed beef, like we mentioned, and so why not farm-raised fish? Well, we'll get into that in a second. Let's get into the grass-fed. Here are the differences as to why you would want grass-fed versus conventional. It's pretty different. So grain versus grass. So what's the difference nutrition-wise? So the cattle are confined in feedlots, which if you've ever seen a feedlot in Texas, there ain't no grass. There's just a bunch of dirt and some troughs. No cow would be, you can't live in that naturally. You have to be fed artificially. So that's not good in the first place. Grass-fed beef, cattle roam free on pasture and eat only grass. So now what's the difference? Why is that? So here you go. So grain-fed beef, Regular consumption is not recommended as part of a healthy diet for a cow. And it's not healthy for us to eat the cow either, because whatever the cow ate, we are eating secondhand. So we're going to get a lot of those sugars that were built up in the grain that is now in the beef. They are fattened up on a variety of grain or corn byproducts, so not just, nice clean grain. There's all kinds of garbage in there.
Right.
Because
and it's probably GMO.
Yeah, and it's because cattle feed, right? Why would you want to spend a lot of money on cattle feed? The cows are going to eat it. They don't know any difference, so of course they're going to give the cows the bad stuff. The meat ends up greasy, not juicy. I didn't know that. That was interesting. I'd learned that reading this. Higher in inflammatory omega-6 fatty acids as well. So all the things we don't want. So what's the difference with grass-fed beef? Remember, it's same type of animal, just a different diet.
Yeah.
Different feed, yeah. So it's leaner and juicier and with higher moisture content. Why? Because they're eating grass. There you go. Rich in omega-3 fatty acids. Omega-3, not omega-6. We want 3s. Vitamin B6. Beta-carotene. It's richer in conjugated linoleic acid, CLA, which improves metabolism and immunity. Wow, it's going to increase your immunity. How about that? And it's rich in antioxidant and anti-inflammatory compounds. Now that is really different from what we used to be told as vegans, learning all this stuff. Meat was bad, period. Ooh, evil bad meat causes cancer, causes this, causes that. Yes, if they're grain-fed. Not if they're grass-fed. Well, we had to completely turn our minds around that one.
Yep.
To figure that out. So
same with eggs. Same kind of thing with eggs.
Yep, same thing with eggs. Exactly. Now, speaking of which, let's get into fish, farmed fish. Why do you not want farmed fish? Because farmed fish are gross. That's why. Farmed fish is kind of like, you ever been to Myrtle Beach? And you've been to the Broadway at the beach. Mm-hmm. It's a kind of like, it's mall. Well, if you've never been to Myrtle Beach, it's like a mall area. For the beach, it's all fun and games and stuff. And there's like attractions and restaurants, all this kind of stuff. And in the middle is this kind of like man-made lake. And they have a couple of bridges over it, and there's stores on either side, that kind of thing. And there's this lake in the middle. So in the lake, you can feed the fish with these little, like the quarter, put in a quarter and turn it, and there's like gumball comes out, like gumball machines. Well, they have like soy pellets in there. So you can get like $25 with a little handful of soy pellets.
25 cents.
What did I say, $25?
Yeah. if you take your kids, yeah, $25.
Maybe it's $25 now. Yeah, 25 cents, you put it in there, you get these pellets. You throw them over, these are on the bridge. They place these machines on the bridge. And you throw it over the bridge, and this swarm of Israeli carp come up, and they're just like
on top
feeding
of
frenzy
each other.
On top of each other and like flopping on top of each other above the water. Oh, it's just totally disgusting. And that's what farmed fish is. They basically have these fish in pens, and sometimes they'll try and get away with the wild caught thing, although that's not very reputable companies. They'll go into the wild. They'll throw out a net and create this artificial pool where they know there's a whole bunch of fish in there. And then they'll feed them the soy pellets and all the crap and the antibiotics and all the other byproducts and all that kind of thing. And call it wild caught because they were in the ocean. They weren't in a tank on the shore. So anyway, there's two farmed fish. And if it does not say wild caught and it just says Atlantic salmon. Oh, you think, oh, that's good, Atlantic salmon. Put it down.
And guess what you're going to get?
Get the wild caught.
Guess what you're going to get in pretty much every restaurant?
Yep, farm fish, unless it says wild caught. And you're only going to find that at the restaurants
at
where
good
the
restaurants,
fish is going to cost you $35 a plate, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So anyway, that is not a good thing. So what you want is an alternative, and that's wild caught. So we're going to get to that now and show you what that is, the difference. Now the type on here is a little bit small, so forgive me. So farm raised versus wild caught. There are all kinds of different things here. So the nutrition, you've got farm raised is going to have lower levels of protein. Wild caught's going to have higher level of protein and more omega-3s. The feed, well, that's, what did we say? It was like fish meal, eating fish meal, consisting of conventionally grown crops. What fish eats a crop that's on the ground? I mean, come on. Pesticides, herbicides, GMOs, that's on the wild caught. Well, they're just going to eat what's in the wild. That's kind of, you notice how, just take a quick look at this. Notice how simple the wild caught column is compared to all the crap we have to be told about the farm raised on the left.
Right.
So without going through all of it, just there you go. You can just come back to this video sometime and do a freeze frame and take a look at all this stuff. But holy cow, That's why wild caught is better. It's just a whole lot simpler. It doesn't cause any diseases. There's no, it's just the way a fish was meant to be, high in protein.
That could be said with any kind of food. So you eat something packaged and there's all this stuff on the back. You eat a whole food, as in broccoli, there's broccoli in there.
Yep. I saw a meme somebody put up today, one of my friends on Instagram. Oh, it was Marshall. Marshall put this up. It was, I don't even know what the food was because I didn't recognize the ingredients. And it was, I don't think it was him. It was somebody else who had this, but he took a screenshot of that person's Instagram, and it was some food from Buc-ee's. If you don't know Buc-ee's, Buc-ee's is this crazy gas station chain in the Southeast. And it's like the size of a Walmart. It's huge. And there must be 50 gas pumps.
Yeah,
it's amazing. It's amazing. It's huge. And it's like they turn it into a tourist attraction. And you can get t-shirts in there. There's like a whole basically department store in the place. And in the middle, they have where they make brisket, which admittedly is pretty darn good, but there's all kinds of garbage probably in there. Anyway, So this person had this product from Buc-ee's, and it was the list of ingredients on the back. And it was this long and the type was that small. It was crazy. And it was just something simple like a waffle cone or something. It was just nuts. Hydrogenated this and artificial that and color this and oh my goodness. So anyway, you got to read the labels. There you go. Got to read the labels again. Yep. So again, simpler is better. And we always say that, what was the rule of thumb when we used to do our vegan thing? If it has more than 10 ingredients, put it back. Just for starters, and then start reading the ingredients. All right, so processed meat. This is a big one. So, first of all, what do you do for wild-caught fish? You want to do ones that are low in mercury. So these are typically the smaller fish, and dare I say, the clean fish, as found in the Bible. If it doesn't have fins and scales, God said in the Bible, don't eat it. I'm going to go with what God says. He kind of knows a thing or two because, he created them.
And he doesn't change his mind.
And he doesn't change his mind. Exactly. Thank you. So you don't eat the shark. Why? Shark does not have fins. It doesn't have scales. It has fins. Doesn't have scales. You don't eat the crustaceans of the Bible. You don't eat the bottom dwellers, which are typically your catfish and your lobsters and shrimp and scallops and mussels and clams and oysters, all that type of stuff. You don't eat those. Why? Those are the garbage trucks of the world. And why do we have so much mercury floating around in the ocean these days? It's not because there's all these ocean liners going back and forth and they're spilling mercury. No, there's been mercury in the ocean since the beginning of time because underground volcanoes spew mercury every day since the beginning of the world. So why is it such a concern now? Number one, is it because we're just able to detect mercury now and we're freaking out about it and we never knew this before? Okay, that's one possibility. The other possibility is we're eating all the garbage trucks.
We're overfishing.
We're overfishing the lobster, the shrimp, the scallops, the mussels. All these things would normally take care of things like the mercury, etc. But we're eating them to the point of extinction, and now all that crap is floating around in the water. Imagine if you still lived life making all the trash that you do in your house, and the trash guy never came by. The garbage man never came by. How much trash would build up? That's what's happening in the oceans. We're getting rid of the garbage trucks. So there you go. All right. Processed meat. Okay, this one's easy. David Jocker says choose organic processed meat. You know what we say? Just forget processed meat. Just forget it. He had a little bit of, you can do this and you can do that. I'm going to be a little fussier than that. No processed meat at all. Like organic bologna? Come on. Get real. So, sliced turkey by Boar's Head or a company like that, once in a while, if it's organic, okay, maybe. But I wouldn't really actually consider that processed meat. It's just cut and put into a package, and if there's a little bit of salt added to it, okay, that's not nitrites and things like this. That's what's really bad. It's the nitrites and things like this that are added to it. You can now get beef jerky that is no nitrites added, no colors, no flavors, no sugar, no nothing, just dried meat basically. Right. So that's okay. But you want to get the nitrites, and so just just stay away from processed meats altogether. And that goes for even the healthy alternatives. We used to buy, admittedly, I bought Beyond Meat. I thought it was a good thing. You know what? I would rather do a grass-fed, grass-finished burger now than Beyond Meat.
Yep.
To be honest with you. Because I thought, well, Beyond Meat, I don't want the cancer-causing ingredients in the meat. Well, now we've learned the cancer-causing ingredients come from what the cow ate, not because the cow is bad. Again, here we go, right back to the Bible. They eat meat all the time. They eat bread all the time. Wine, olive oil. None of these things were bad. Why?
Right.
Because we've done something to it. It's like, when we teach you to look at studies. Okay, the study says this. Okay, but how big was the sample size that they dealt with? What were the habits of the people who they put through the test? What else did they do other than the thing you were testing them for? How else did they live? Did they drink? Did they smoke? Did they exercise? What kind of car did they drive? Do they, what kind of jobs do they have? All of these things you're not normally told when they're doing a test on certain people for a certain thing. There's all these variables. And usually if you really dig, sometimes the results are not what we think they are. And so it's the same thing with this. Sometimes it's not what you think it is.
That makes sense.
It's just, the simpler the better. So that's the thing. We're getting back to simple. And that's why I love, the organic industry and everything. There's something to be said for a certain level of environmental responsibility and all this kind of stuff. So because we do need to get back, we need to rewind the tape a little bit and get back to something more natural. So the fewer ingredients, the better.
Right.
For a rule of thumb. All right. So that was processed meats. Now, let's see here. Where are we at? We are at hydrogenated oils. Okay. So there we go. So this is trans fats. There's our nice little title slide, trans fats. So what are trans fats? Trans fats are hydrogenated or partially hydrogenated oils. Now, first of all, before I show you this next graphic, what is hydrogenated oil? So oils, when we make things with oils go bad. They go rancid, right? Mm-hmm. So how can you make any, potato chips or anything like that has oil in it without having it go bad after a week of being on the shelf? By the time you put it in the truck and take it to the grocery store, it'd be going bad. So how do we combat this? Okay. So the molecular structure of oil that they use, like liquid oil that they use to make potato chips, for example. Let's stay on the potato chip example. So it has to be liquid in order to fry the potato chips, right? So the easiest, cheapest way to do that is things like canola oil, palm oil, cottonseed oil, all that type of stuff. Canola oil. Did I say canola oil? Mm-hmm. Okay, canola oil. What was the other one? Peanut oil, things like that. So those are all liquid at room temperature. That's how you know they are either monounsaturated or polyunsaturated. What does that mean? Saturated with what? If something is saturated, like a saturated oil is saturated with hydrogen. So the entire molecular structure has no room for any other gases to move in. It is saturated with hydrogen. Now, the mono, which means one, or poly, which means more than one, unsaturated oils have either one or many opportunities in their molecular structure for either hydrogen or oxygen to move in. If oxygen moves into those spaces in the molecular structure, what do we call that? That's oxidation. When oxygen moves in, that means oxidation is rancidity.
Right.
So these are the oils they're using, the monounsaturated and polyunsaturated oils, to make things like potato chips. So they're going, well, this doesn't work. How are we going to make this more like a saturated fat, which is solid at room temperature, coconut oil? Right now, when it's really hot out, it gets a little bit of liquid. If it goes from liquid and solid to liquid and solid, just depending on the temperature of your house, by the way, that's okay. Don't worry about it. But usually solid at room temperature, that's how you can tell it is a saturated fat. Pork lard, by the way, which we have nothing to do with, but that's another example. That is another saturated fat. But coconut oil is also a saturated fat. Butter. For some reason, and butter. Thank you. Yep. So unsaturated fats, they go rancid because of the molecular structure. So the manufacturers go, well, we need to make it more like saturated fat without using a saturated fat. So how are we going to do that? Well, it's saturated with, saturated fat is saturated with hydrogen. So what happens if we add hydrogen to these mono and polyunsaturated fats? Well, they still remain liquid, but the molecular structure is now saturated or partially saturated with hydrogen. from which we get partially hydrogenated, or just plain old hydrogenated, hydrogenated, for emphasis, oils. So that's what these oils are. Now you think, oh, that's a brilliant idea. Well, in theory, sure. It makes the product that you're creating, i.e. the potato chips, more shelf stable, right? Shelf stable. It doesn't go rancid, so that's good. But the body does not recognize artificially created oils. So you have these oils that started as mono or polyunsaturated, then you shove a bunch of hydrogen in there, which does not happen in nature. Now the body goes, I think I know what to do with this, but I'm not sure, so I'm going to put it here, I'm going to put it there. And that's where we create problems. The body doesn't know what to do with this. The omega-6 ratios are through the roof, which causes inflammation. That's the whole point of this talk tonight. These things cause massive inflammation. And you can find these oils in pretty much anything. So that is really, really bad. So let's take a look. So from left to right, real quick, the more hydrogenated the product gets, the more trans fat is in there. We've all heard that trans fat is bad. So vegetable oil on the left, vegetable oil is not good, by the way. And shortening on the right is the worst. So let's take a look at the small yellow box on the bottom right there. What are the worst foods? Let's just skip to the end here. Fried, battered foods. Oh, okay, so there you go. Anything fried. That's why you're supposed to avoid fried foods. Microwave popcorn. There's our popcorn example from earlier in our talk. Frozen desserts. Those are bad too. Why? Because they contain a lot of this kind of crap. Baking mixes. Ready-to-use frosting. Frozen pizza, pie crust, cookies. What is the common denominator in all this crap? It's packaged.
Yep.
You see?
And they have to make it shelf stable so it'll last, so it'll stay on the shelf so that you'll buy it. But how do they do that? With exactly how you explained it.
Yep. How about that, right? So that old adage of shop around the aisles, don't go down the aisles. There's a lot to that.
Yep.
All right. So what is a good fat? Let's take a look at this. What are the alternatives? The good fat. Butter, tallow, ghee, coconut milk, coconut oil, avocado oil. By the way, avocado oil, cook with avocado oil, and to some degree coconut oil.
And butter.
Avocado oil has the highest smoke point, which means you can cook at the highest temperature without burning it. Olive oil is not like that. Use olive oil only in cold applications. Fish oil, if you take cod liver oil, that we tell pretty much everybody to take, I take it as well, that's also a good fat. And eggs are a good fat. The things you want to avoid, things we've already talked about. Canola oil, soybean oil, sunflower oil, corn oil, safflower, grapeseed. Grapeseed is surprising. Grapeseed was supposed to be this like real good oil a few years ago. Now we're finding it not so much. Margarine, cottonseed oil, peanut oil. And you will find on most bags of potato chips or tortilla chips that they are made with canola and or sunflower and or cottonseed oil, all of which have the potential to be
soybean.
Or soybean. Yeah, soybean is probably more common, right? Soybean, canola, and cottonseed oil.
Or sunflower.
Right, but those three, canola, soybean, and cottonseed oil, are the three most genetically modified crops in America.
Wow.
So when you're eating potato chips or tortilla chips, you have a choice of three of those. And they're all genetically modified. Yeah. So why would you want that? Genetically modified, what does it do to the oils? Well, all kinds of protein issues when you do this technology, but more than that, it's the pesticides and herbicides that they put on the crop, which is the whole reason they're genetically modifying them in the first place, to be resistant to the herbicide they're putting on the crop, so that even after the crop comes up, they can spray it and all the weeds will die around it, but the crop will stay up because it's resistant to the herbicide. That's the whole point of GMO. Now, what happens with that? You can think, if you're the farmer, going, so I can spray and it won't kill the crop, huh? I'm going to spray, and I'm going to spray, I'm going to spray, I'm going to spray. There's no regulation to this. They can spray as many times as they want. And this herbicide and pesticide are what's called, it's mostly herbicide, not pesticide. Pesticide is for bugs, herbicide is for herbs, for weeds. So they spray the herbicide, and it's what they call hydrophobic, which means it's rain fast. So it'll stick to the plant, and if it rains like 2 hours later, it's not going to wash it off, right? So what does that mean when you're processing the food? Well, oil and water don't mix. So if it does not come off in with water, it sticks to the Oil. What are we making with these plants? Oil. What are you eating?
Jeez.
The oil. So where's all the herbicide going? In the oil. So you're getting a concentrated amount of herbicide whenever you're eating the potato chips or whatever made with cottonseed, canola, or soybean oil. There you go. Very, 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 very bad. Okay, so hydrogenated oils, good fats, we covered that. Okay, additives. Oh, there's a good one. Additives and preservatives. Most foods that are packaged include at least one of these. So what are they used for? So they enhance flavor, texture, color. They extend shelf life, which we've already talked about. They have no nutritional value. These things suck. And they're often inflammatory or harmful to your health. Monosodium glutamate, MSG, is the most dangerous of them all, I would think, of the additives and preservatives. They cause inflammation, cancer. We were talking things like high fructose corn syrup, trans fats, artificial flavoring, all these things. Now, specifically with respect to that, kids, we've mentioned before that kids are most at risk of bad foods and additives and all this kind of thing, because when you're growing, you're metabolizing a lot faster. And so you're, just like, when we say that kids learn, they absorb things like a sponge, right? They, like, well, my daughter, when she was 7, she and I learned Hebrew together, and she learned it a heck of a lot faster than I did. Why? Because when you're a kid, that's just the way kids are built, right? We absorb things really quick when we're a kid. That's why it's so important to teach really good things when kids are young. And that's why the evil in this world wants to teach the kids when they're young, because they want it to stick, so that. And
they want to make it
normal.
Make the kids think it's normal.
Right. So you know what we're talking about. Anyway, but this also goes with food. So the kids are growing a lot and metabolizing food a lot quicker than adults. So a little bit of toxin to us is a big problem for kids, especially when it comes to kids who are prone to ADHD. So this can come in the form of getting shots when you're a kid, or anything like this. It is just too much for little bodies. And so this is what happens. 89% of ADHD kids are affected by artificial colors. So hyperactivity in children, this is what we're talking about. 71% are affected by artificial flavors. 71% are affected by preservatives, and 59% are affected by MSG. Why? Because the kids are already at a disadvantage being ADHD. And where is that? In the brain. So where do these things affecting? They're affecting the brain. And the brain and the gut are connected by, you've heard me talk about this before, the enteric nervous system. So what we eat affects the brain. So be very careful. If you want your brain to be healthy, we want to eat healthy. So, and I would think the brain is probably, your brain and the heart are the two things most people are most concerned about.
Right.
And so, what is the common denominator there? It's what we eat. So you really got to be careful what you eat, especially with the additives and especially with the kids. All right. So what is, we're almost at the end here. Second last one, vegetable oils. Oh, there we go. Even in addition to things like canola, soybean, cottonseed oil. So those are the things you want to ditch, right? So you want to get those out, especially. So I actually have a list of which to ditch. Here you go. Now, not all saturated fats are good, and definitely most unsaturated are bad. So let's take a look at the saturated ones. Jody, you had mentioned butter. Now butter's good, but what's a fake butter is, of course, margarine.
Margarine, yes. Which I grew up on that because everybody was told it was way better for you.
Right, exactly.
Back in the 80s.
Well, yeah, because we had commercials that said, if you look on the left-hand side there, I can't believe it's not butter. I can't believe it's not hydrogenated.
Oh, wait, it is.
Oh, wait, it is. Yeah, okay. So hydrogenated or partially hydrogenated oils, man-made trans fats. Again, read your labels. That's the only way you're going to find out. And they have to disclose these things. So you can read a label, find out what it is. If you see, you know what I do when I go to the store? If I reach for something, I turn it around or read the label. The first ingredient I see that I don't agree with, I put it back. I don't even give it a chance. Forget it. Put it back. Like if I'm going to the store and, there's this one place around us that has overstock. From restaurants or not restaurants, but like grocery stores. And sometimes there's good stuff and often there's bad stuff. So it's like, it's a good deal. So I pick it up and I look at it, like it's salad dressing. Soybean oil, back.
Right.
Okay, and they're reading another thing. Oh, that's a good ingredient. That's a good ingredient. That's an ingredient. Sucralose. Put it back. You know, like these sugar-free. That's what really ticks me off. They have these sugar-free barbecue sauces.
Right.
And it's like, oh, they're created by this guy who had diabetes, and he created a way where you can have barbecue sauce that's nice and sweet, and it won't hurt you. What's the ingredient what's the very last ingredient on it? Which, by the way, all ingredients we know that most abundant at the top, the least at the bottom. Now, the least at the bottom is sometimes the most harmful. Sucralose. There's not much in there, but it's still very, very bad for you. So sucralose. Don't use anything that has sucralose in it. Or aspartame. My gosh, that's the worst stuff in the world. Aspartame can give you Alzheimer's. Yep. Very, very bad. So we don't
brain fog.
Brain fog at the very least. Migraines. It can affect ADHD. You talk about hyperactivity disorder in kids. Aspartame. Oh my gosh.
Been there, done that.
Talk about fuel on a fire. Wow.
I was a Pepsi addict, and I had migraines all the time.
Did you really?
Well,
I know you're a Pepsi addict. I don't remember the headaches, but
you don't remember my migraines, my ocular migraines.
Almost the ocular
at
migraines,
least once a month.
But that was due to the Diet Pepsi.
Oh yeah, I remember they stopped, and now I do get them once in a while, like. Once a year I might get a migraine, but I always know why, and it's because the day before I was either painting or I was around chemicals or something, and I can almost bet that, or I looked at a light. Well, that's what'll trigger it. I'll do something weird chemically, and then the next day I'll look at a light funny and it'll trigger it.
Yep. So all you pregnant mothers who want to paint the baby room when you're 8.5 months pregnant, give that a second thought. You pick the color. Let somebody else paint it. Okay, don't be up there. I mean, we made that mistake.
We did. I painted the whole house at 8.5 months pregnant.
You're really nesting the whole house.
Yes.
Anyway, so so the vegetable oils. Is that where we were? Oh yeah, what we're gonna ditch. Right. Okay, here we go. So I can't believe it's not hydrogenated, but it is. Margarine, etc. Okay, on the right-hand side, unsaturated fats. So you don't want any of the other ones. Well, we've talked about these already. Grapeseed, soybean. This was in the other list that Dr. Jockers had. So there you go. All right, so what's our last one here? We talked about it a little bit already. Artificial sweeteners. What do we want to do instead? Well, we want to have things like stevia is your best friend. I say regardless of whether you are diabetic, pre-diabetic, or not diabetic, stevia is your best friend.
Yep.
Oh, but it has a terrible aftertaste. Get used to it. Okay? Just come on.
You know what's funny, though? I used to absolutely hate stevia. Like, remember I would say, I would just rather have it nothing at all.
Yep.
But now that I'm completely sugar-free of everything else, stevia tastes normal to me and there is no aftertaste.
Wow.
So it's kind of weird that your taste buds change when you
taste
drop
buds do change.
the real sugar and you drop the aspartame and you drop all that. Stevia will actually taste good.
And there are some companies that are making an effort to combine stevia, monk fruit, and erythritol, all of which are good in that order. Stevia, in my opinion, is the best. Some people say monk fruit extract is the best. Okay, so that's a tie for first. Erythritol kind of comes in second because some people, it will give you a gassy stomach. It does it to me, and that means my stomach's not exactly perfect. And that's usually most people. So.
Yeah, and it doesn't do it to me at all. I love erythritol. I love the taste of erythritol. There's no aftertaste. That is my favorite go-to.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Now, there's some other alls that you should avoid. Sorbitol, maltitol. These are also sugar alcohols made from different things, but these are not great for your gut. They cause a lot of gas and other issues.
And leaky gut.
Yeah, leaky gut and just, bad things. So maltitol, sorbitol, avoid it. Erythritol, in moderation. Stevia and monk fruit, that's okay. All right, so that covers our sweeteners. Oh, by the way, I forgot the most fun. There you go. There's the most fun slide right there. Artificial sweeteners are evil. And will contribute to major digestive issues, brain inflammation, and accelerated aging processes. Oh yeah, that is definitely evil. We do not want that. Okay, so we do not want those, so do not have those. And how are you going to find out if you are allergic to anything, or if you're sensitive to anything, or maybe you just kind of should be eating different things? Do this. Do our Biologic Blueprint Discovery Panel. We can have 55 biomarkers, or even, 60? There's more than that. 55 plus another 9 to see your spike protein risk. And it's not even just spike protein. It's if you've had COVID or not had COVID or had the jab or not had the jab, it's just good to find out how your blood is reacting to certain things.
Well, I'll tell you right now, more people are coming to us not even really concerned about the jab anymore. They're more concerned about where their blood is at right now because they've had COVID.
Okay.
And something is not quite right since they had COVID.
Yep.
So that's why they're coming to us and getting these.
And there's a lot of
spike
people
protein.
who are kind of falling victim to the next wave of whatever this is floating around, and it's technically COVID. So anyway, if you're unsure of whether you want to do it, do this. Book some time with me, 30 minutes, free, lardwellness.com/blueprint. I'll talk to you for half an hour about our testing. And we actually, like I said, we have our new, what I'm trying to say, the Biologic Blueprint program. Coming soon. And so that is coming soon as well. I can talk to you about that. 6-week or 12-week program. A lot more affordable than it was. A lot more time efficient for you. And you still get all the stuff. So there you go. That is coming very soon. As soon as I can get it up on the website. Hopefully the next show we will be able to tell you about that. Not sure we're going to be doing a show next week because we're picking up our daughter from the airport.
Right.
So we probably...
Or the week after that.
Right, because we are...
the week after that.
So we better figure out something else to give you guys, maybe at a different night, okay? So be looking on Facebook, be looking on Instagram for just some different things from us that we can give to you in the meantime while we are entertaining children and such.
Yes, but basically we won't really be back at it until August.
Okay,
the first week of August.
But we'll send you some stuff in the meantime, and hopefully it will be our new program, and you can take advantage of that. All right. In the meantime, thank you. Have a good week. And hey, tomorrow night, watch Shabbat Night Live. See if this bread thing is for you, okay? All right. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.